All right. So we are only recording the teachings because of the size and all of that. So please do well to work with us even as we commence this. All right. I'm sharing my screen now. All right. Please indicate if you can see my screen. Can we all see my screen, please?
Yes, yes, I can.
I can see your screen, sir.
All right. All right. Thank you all so much. And the class starts officially. We are recording from this session now. All right. So I'll be teaching tonight very briefly. This is the first session on stories that last. Stories that last. So I had a bit of time, over the week to do an extensive research on storytelling, evolution of storytelling across different millennials. And I'll be teaching tonight very briefly on why should we tell stories and why do stories last? Why do stories last? Why do stories last? So please ensure you're part of the class, ensure you are participating because you are in for a lot tonight. So let's quickly move on. I always like to start every class with a question, a puzzle, something to make you think and reflect of something. All right. And the first question I'll be asking tonight is yeah. So please, this is going to be very interactive. I would employ us to all make sure we're communicating. And here says, what is the greatest what if you have ever thought about? What is the greatest what if? Anyone, 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 anyone. The chat box is open for you. You could unmute your mic, you could do whatever you want to do. But the question is, what is the greatest what if you have ever thought about? Deborah, please go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, my greatest what if was is what if I don't make it in life?
Wow. that's a very deep one. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? What is that one thing that please go ahead, Glory?
Only
For
what if I
me,
add?
oh,
Okay. Sorry. You can go on, Amira.
oh, all right, thank you. My greatest what if would be what if I had superpowers?
Amazing. I like that. I like that. All right. Thank you, Amira. Yeah, Glory, please go ahead.
Okay. I've also thought of that before. Well, another what if I've had is what if I am not human?
What do you want to be?
I've actually thought of it before, so
All right. All right. Okay. Jemima is ah. She said, what if everything we have experienced to date has been a dream? What if we are all just seeing the most likely futures in our dream and we actually still just babies? Ha. Okay. that is a lot. What if Adam didn't eat the apple in the garden? Thank you. Someone is speaking my mind. Thank you so much, Mr. Dave. What if Adam didn't eat? What if Elon Musk is my family member? Ha. That's that's a stretch. Please keep asking. What if the universe wasn't balanced? It should be imbalanced. Now, I'm asking this because one of the first things you have to learn when you tell stories is you have to challenge the normal. You have to challenge the normal. So if there was a first point to note tonight, it would be that when it comes to telling stories, you have to challenge the normal. So please, let's keep them coming. I think I like Obi Emmanuel's own. What if Elon Musk was a family member? So I'll be like Samuel Musk. That's amazing, but it's a what if, it's not a reality, But then the point of this exercise this evening is just to make you question things. Everything can be questioned. All right. And sometimes, if you do not take out the time to question some things, you will not find answers. You will not find solutions to the problems that we have in the world today. All right. So let's quickly rush because I'm going to be really time conscious. I'd like us to finish today in due time. But are we following, please? Are we together, please? Are we together, please? I want to be sure we are on the same page. Are we all following, please? All right.
yes, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Ahead. So, like I said again, what if? So you could relate this to your field now before we move on. What if, okay, to the person in fashion, right? What if we sew clothes, where I don't know how to put this, but this is just an idea in my head. What if we sew clothes without, I mean, someone that made the first person that made the clothes without hands, I'm probably sure thought about something. What if? What if the person who has been, trying to look at the blank page and is trying to understand how to write better, have you ever asked yourself, what if I tried this instead? What if I tried that instead? And trust me, there are many possibilities available to us, but sometimes people do not take the time to question things. What if? Very simple, very mundane. It looks insignificant, but trust me, this is where a lot of people get it wrong. You will have to question things. No time for stories tonight, but just a quick story. I read the story of the Wright brothers, the people that made about the flying airplanes now, right? And they were just literally college dropouts. They didn't know much about at the time. They were just people fresh from college. They were just going to the mechanic shop and everything like that. Until a particular day, their father brought home a little toy that could fly, right? It was a little toy that could fly, and he had this band around it. So it was not even a toy. It was more like the dad just did something for them and everything. It was something very quack. But when they saw it, they asked a simple question: what if humans could fly? And trust me, newspapers called them idiots. They had a lot of back and forth on it. People literally kept insulting them. But today, do people fly? Yes, people do. Because two people dared enough, or they were bold enough to question things. So the first thing to ask you this evening is, what have you accepted and what have you questioned? What have you accepted and what have you questioned? You should understand that questioning things is very pivotal when it comes to giving stories that last. Quickly, let's move on. Our time is not on our side. I'm going to increase this so we can all follow with me. All right. Now, this is my own what if. I think Jemima stole my scripts. So, but I'm going to continue anyway. What if you discover that you have been living in a dream? It sounds cliche, but think about it, reflect about it. What if you discover that, I don't know, probably all your life, maybe the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life, and you just realize that I've been dreaming all along. Everything that happened were just part of the dream. And the first question to you tonight will be, what will you do differently? Anybody? Anybody? What if you woke up tomorrow and you discover that everything you have been doing from when you were born till now has been a dream? What will you do differently? Anyone, please. Amira, please go ahead.
Okay, first off, I would correct all the mistakes I made and take back many mean things I might have said.
Okay. Okay. All right. That works. Glory, please go ahead. But before Glory speaks, there are people that have not spoken on this call that I would like to bring on board. Jemima said, I'll invest in Bitcoin. Amazing. Amazing. All right. Who hasn't spoken? All right. Are you there, Pamela? I'd like to hear from you. Are you there? Please tell us.
Well, I'll start living my life when I wake up. I think, sorry, I'm not so straightforward, but I'll start living my life. I mean, from the things I've learned from my dreams. As I said, I'll start living it well.
All right. All right. So it's more like you would begin to walk, knowing what's going to happen, right? You just begin to walk in that. Am I correct?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir. I'm quite
All right.
busy.
All right. Thank you. Glory, please go ahead. I'd like to hear from you.
I'll probably wake up in another country.
Ah.
Was a dream.
All right. All right. Gerald is saying, I'll start looking and understanding life purpose much more earlier. That's deep. Food for thought. All right. Let's move on. One more person before I push. Mr. Dave, are you there with us? All right. He says, I'll be 10 steps ahead. I'll use the accumulated knowledge to my advantage in all areas of life. Beautiful. Beautiful. So newsflash. Okay. Deborah, please go ahead before I, continue.
Okay, I would take some unnecessary information children have.
Come again.
Like, if I could change some things differently, like some information little children are exposed to, I wouldn't like them to be exposed to it.
All right. That's very contextual and true. Beautiful. Newsflash. You are not in a dream. You are in real life. This is not a dream in any way. This is the actual life that there is, right? And as beautiful as it would be to go back and do things differently, newsflash, you cannot go back and do things differently. And if for any reason we discover that we're all in a dream, then good for you. But I don't think this is a dream. You can try pinching yourself to find out. But I don't think dreams work that way. But the point of this, again, like I said, is to remind you again repeatedly that questioning realities is the first way to tell stories. If you look through history, look through time, which we will do shortly in this teaching this evening, you understand that a lot of the things that happened through time, it happened because people were bold enough to question things. So in that field that you are in currently, in that sector that you find yourself in that area, in that business, in that fashion, in that writing, what have you accepted as a normal? A lot of people do not understand that it first begins by questioning things. What if? What if? Newsflash, this entire bootcamp also came as a what if. What if creatives come together once every year and have a bootcamp? What if? What if you joining this call tonight was a what if? What if I joined this? What if I paid for this bootcamp and I was part of it? It was a what if. Now, most of the things that happens in our lives must always begin with that. Let's quickly move on because of our time. Next, let's now move on quickly. I want you to pay attention to this definition. This is going to be the very basic class. We won't go much into experiments today because I'd like you to understand, first of all, what it is to tell stories, right? Before we then move on to how AI, that will be tomorrow and next tomorrow. It will be very practical. Please do not miss any session, right? Even if you have the recordings, you should still be in class so you could work with the team and make it more effective. Now, storytelling is the art and the science of making sense of the world. It's the art, two keywords there, is the art and the science of making sense of the world. Everything that we see in the world is a story. Everything that we see in the world has a story. Has a story. Something led to something that led to something that led to you. If we were to go, if you were to backtrack a bit, your dad possibly met your mom and they wooed each other, or however the love story began, and everything. Probably it was African magic. It was in the bush. Your dad was riding a bicycle. Your mom was fetching water in the stream. And they met each other. There was a story. Something became something that became you. So when we talk about telling stories, it is the art and the science. Two keywords there: art and science. Art and science. So why is it a science? I explained three things here. Number one is cognitive processes in the brain. When you tell stories, it has been proven by science that there's a cognitive movement in your brain that allows you to visualize what the person is saying. It means that the best way to pass across any information to an audience is to tell a story. It's also proven that when we tell stories, there is often the release of two hormones. We have the oxytocin and we have dopamine there are two major hormones that are triggered when stories are told, right? So it means that when we talk about the science of storytelling, the first thing to note is that there is a cognitive function that goes into play when we hear stories being told. It means when you heard the story that was told, probably of your birth, of something that you heard, there was something that was wired in your brain to respond to stories. And then the emotional connection, take for instance, I'm sure you can relate to this. I'm sure probably a few of you here, maybe at some point growing up, you watched a movie, you read the book, and you cried. Can you relate to that, anyone? You literally cried. You watched the movie, you read the book, and you were crying. Then maybe later when you grew up, you felt insulted. How did I cry to something that was not real? Come on now, let's talk. Is it just me that happened to? Am I the weird person here, or are they? Do I have corporates? Let me call you corporates. Glory, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, please, you're not the only one. If they can say bucket of tears, I cried. Yes, I did.
My God. And then growing up, I'm like, how was I able to cry, or how did I cry rather to something that was not real? The reason is because when you heard that story, when you read that book, something was triggered. It is called the emotional connection. This is why there's a science behind it. Right? So stories trigger neurochemicals like oxytocin and dopamine. These are two major hormones that controls empathy and reward. For me, I remember a movie I watched many years ago, maybe around 2013, 2014, thereabout, or maybe 2011 or 2012. It was this Indian movie I watched. It's even Indian. Imagine. It was an Indian movie I watched, and in that particular movie, it was this movie Krish. So the guy growing up, the guy, when his mom was pregnant, he fell. The mom had an accident. The dad died. The mom, the tummy, hit against a very hard surface. Then he had brain damage, right? So it means growing up, he had slow growth. So it was so slow that at the age of 20 something, he was friends with primary school children because that was what he could relate with. So he was like minus 15 years behind, right? And they will mock him. You see, people of his age, they would come around and they would push him. He has this scooter. Then they would literally abuse him, and he would begin to cry. And I found myself crying as well. I did not know why I was crying. But because something in that story, I was able to understand and I was able to feel what this person was going through. Hear me now. Your greatest advantage in telling stories is that stories is literally one of the only ways to reach out to people's emotion. I heard this from somewhere, and it says nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. If there's something you want to communicate with people, you do not just, people use a lot. You see people, the right threats. Maybe you probably got in the WhatsApp breakout before. We tell you share this to 10 groups, or else something will happen to you by 12 a.m. Funny things like that. Now, why I'm not trying to use that as an example, the point I'm trying to emphasize here tonight is that the only assured way, one of the most widely used, methods to communicate to people's emotion is by storytelling. So take for instance, I sell bags. Now this for those that are in the fashion world, fashion business and everything. I sell bags, right? And I'm trying to communicate that, or I'm trying to sell that to people, right? It's not about just saying buy the bag. Something about that has to resonate with the audience, so much so that they realize that they need this as a necessity. It means you are evoking emotions. I'm very sure we can all, those in Nigeria can probably, know this more. But growing up, there was this particular Indomie advert. Can we remember it? I think it was this Mama Do Good or something. Please, let's in the kids. Do we all remember this particular advert? Now, the reason we were able to connect with it was because something about that advert brought a family emotional connection. Think through any story you remember till now. Any story, it either it activated an emotion within you, or something about the story resonated something within you. Emotions. It's either you were scared. To those that like horror books or horror movies, it's either you were scared, you felt happy, you felt joy, you felt. All right, Mr. Diogo, are you going to say something?
So sorry, that was the mistake.
Okay, no problem, no problem. It's fine, it's fine. All right. So I was saying that everything you can remember today, check through every story. Remember, I'm sure there are a few of us that you have lecturers that you cannot forget. Once they come to the class, it's more like it sticks in your head what they teach because of how they relate the concepts to real life things. Anytime you take something out of a story, you make it vague. Every time you take something out of a story, you make it vague. Quickly rush down. We move on to empathy and simulation. And simulation. You want to provoke or stir up empathy in your audience. Tell stories. Tell stories. Now remember how we started? We started with number 1, question themes. Number 2, understand the science behind storytelling. That people's mind there's a cognitive function that must go into play if you will communicate storytelling effectively. Let's quickly run. There's something I want us to do at the end of today's class that I think we'll really enjoy. So now this is the science. Let's move on to the art. Now this is a very basic class because I would like us to really understand what it means to tell story before we move on to the practical session. Right? All right. So what is the art? Number 1, relatable experiences. Relatable experiences. There's something, I'm sure there's something you've gone through that someone else has also gone through it. I'm very sure. The chances or the likelihood of someone having a similar experience to yours is almost 90-10. Take for instance, have you ever lost your phone before? Okay, let me use an example. Have you ever been robbed before? Anybody? All right. Now I think I shared this last year in the boot camp, and it was in Lagos, sometimes in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, in between 2018 or 2019 thereabout. I think Osita is here on the call. You probably can remember this day. So then we used to go around for meetings and all of that. And I remember that day we had a meeting in Festac, Lagos. And coming back home, I remember vividly that I left the phone in my pocket. Now, it's very hard to believe sometimes because you can't believe yourself saying the story to yourself. So how do you expect people to believe what you're saying? So I remember the phone was in the pocket. I was in the bus. And right then, I just noticed that he's saying he remembers in the comment box. Yeah. And I just remember that when I was going to Festac, the pocket felt heavier. Coming back home, the pocket is feeling lighter. What did the phone shrink inside? You know when you try to imagine things in your head so you not feel bad about what happened. It was either the pocket or the phone shrank or something happened until I placed my hand there. And you know that moment of culture shock that it just hit you, bam, your phone has been stolen. That was what happened. That something left. Thank you for that, Glory. Exactly. Right? Now I'm very sure that somebody here can relate to that. Now watch this. Now, if I want to tell a story, or maybe I want to have a business that talks about anti-theft, I won't come and tell you that, oh yes, keep your phone safe, keep your this safe, keep your that safe, try to not do this or do that, or that is very vague because you are not activating a cognitive function. What have you been through? Now, I'm sure if I were to, Jamila said, Virtual has left me. Amazing. All right. Now, if I were to start an anti-theft company now, I already have a story for it because I have a relatable experience. So there's no how that out of 10 people, 5, 6, 7 people have not lost something before. For others, it was so dramatic. My friend, literally, they cut through her bag, removed the phone. She did not know until she got home. She just saw a hole in the bag. And she was wondering, was there rats in the car or something? Was it rats or something? Until she realized that, so now that's an experience that she has gone through. So when you're trying to communicate to an audience, understand the power of relatable experiences. Number 2, very quickly, new perspectives. New perspectives. Are you teaching something? Are you in a class? Are you in a setting? Are you in business? Are you in fashion? Are you in this? Is there something new you want to communicate to people that would give them a new perspective about what you are doing? It has to be new. And lastly, we have shaping reality. This is one of the most powerful force in storytelling. You have the power to shift narratives. You have the power to challenge the physical. You have the power to influence possibilities by just telling stories. Now, so the point of this tonight is to bring to the point where you sit back and reflect. How can I bring this creativity into what I do? Now, my time is almost up. I have to run now. We have just a few slides to go before we move on. Now, so what are the key elements of telling stories? This is where I'll be on a bit. Then once we're done with this slide, the rest I'll just run through it. The first key element is character. Remember, I'm teaching you stories that last. It means how can you tell a story that even after months or years or decades, the impact of it is still felt. There's some adverts you grew up watching that you still know till now. The first element that must be in every story is a character. Do not have flat characters. The characters could be you, yes. You could have to create a character or something spectacular, but something about what you are saying must have a face. Who or what is the face of your story? It should be relatable. Now, I just shared now how Virtual left or something left me, in Lagos about a few years ago. So who is the character of your story? What is the content of your story? What happened to you? What experience would become? I know of someone right now that has an entire company because he had a problem that he needed to solve. And that became the idea for his website that he launched already. What is the character of your story? People don't care that you have a good idea. What is the character behind the story? It's not about, oh my God, this is an idea, it will work. In fact, I have this planned out, I have this map, I have this, that. Beautiful that you have an idea. But what is the face of your story? How will you communicate that to spark a reaction in people? Number two is plots. What are the interrelated sequence of events that build up your story? So what happened at this point? So you see why it's not just about the fact that I'm a writer or that I'm a singer or I'm into fashion. Everybody can tell stories. Everybody should tell stories because it's one of the surest ways to communicate to an audience, right? The next, we have the setting. We have setting. Where is your story located? Where is your story located? And lastly, we have conflict. So now, how do we marry this together? Let's do an example very quickly. Last year, I shared a story. I wish I had a slide here, and it was a very interesting story. It was a story of, I don't know if you can remember the story of Candy Bear. Who remembers the story we said last year about Candy Bear and Mr. Festus? I'm not sure we can remember this. Yeah, all right, people are reacting here. Candy Bear and Mr. Festus. It was a very interesting story that we shared, and we made it on the spot here in class, literally. All right, thank you, Amira. It was a very beautiful story of a 60-year-old man that liked a 16-year-old girl, right? And until the day the mother decided to use the rose flower that he bought for her to flog him. All right, so you can imagine how dramatic that would have been, right? When rose flower was used to flog instead of, and all of that. So let's quickly do that. So someone should give me a field. All right, someone should give me a field. What story should we tell? So we could apply all of this in a very beautiful sequence. Church crush, beautiful. I love that. Church crush. I think we cannot relate to that. All right, so I think we'll just take it one after the other. So let's start with, I think I like that church crush of the thing. Because we all have supposedly, unless those are married, of course, we all have that supposedly church crush. All right. So let's say, for instance, you want to run a business, you want to do something, and you want to see how you could tell this story into what you do. So now, let's assume, right? So let it be that, so what do we name the guy? What do we name the guy? So the guy that is crushing on, yeah, so what do we name the guy? Quickly. Now, this may sound very childish, or I'm like, why are we telling about church crush? But trust me, you must question things to tell stories. Liam. Beautiful name. So Liam, Akman. Angel is not nice. Akman is not. Akman doesn't sound like a good name. Sound like someone that wants to beat somebody. All right. So let's say Liam, for instance. All right. So Liam is the name of the guy. So what do we call the girl? Something very sweet. Brother Theophilus. That is very, very churchy. That is very, very churchy. All right. Let's name him. Help me now. Okay. All right. I have to make a choice. All right. Let's stick with Liam. Liam sounds a bit tush. Let's give the guy a bit of swag. You know, bro, that sounds like a church pastor to be. So let's not make him a church pastor. All right. And we have Liam and Lily. Is that a coincidence? Liam and Lily. Or is that a sign that they're meant to be together? All right. So let's go with Liam and Lily. All right. All right. So on this particular day, right? Let's add a little bit of now. This is where the creativity comes in. You must be able to tell stories that people can understand easily. Now let's take a bit of Z word, Indian drama to this, right? So we add a bit of comedy to it. So this is Liam. That's a 20-year-old boy, you know. Let's say, all right. So Liam is crushing on Lily, right? So Liam, yeah, on Lily, yeah. All right. So Liam is a 20-year-old boy. You know, he's still in school, maybe in you know, penultimate year, and all of that. And he's always been this very quiet, cool kid in church. Always been cool. You know, his parents are maybe deacons, or his parents are, let's say, they are deacons in church. You know, he's just this cool kid. In fact, they used to use him for examples. You know, when they use you as example in church, that yes, look at Liam. And then parents are using Liam to compare their children. That you look at Liam, why you not like Liam? You know, and Liam is this very cool boy, you know, very afro cut, you know, you could imagine he has dark eyes, he's tall, you know, average height, very cool kid. He does not, very cool kid, right? And then Lily's parents just moved in, right? To the neighborhood, yeah? And Lily is this very outspoken girl, right? And let's say initially they were not friends at all because they had clashing, what's it called now? They have clashing characters, right? And it happened like that. They were just separate people and all of that. And eventually, on this particular day, it happened to be, I'm trying to use this word so you can understand where I'm driving at. On this particular day, it happened to be, consequently, fortunately, that Liam's Liam's dad and Lily's dad were old. They went to the same school together, right? And then so this was the first time they saw, right there. So here was Liam, here was Lily, right? And the dads are greeting. Oh, it's so good to see you. And you can imagine the awkward moment between the two of them, like, okay, so what is going on here, right? And so the dads are greeting, everything is greeting, like, oh, come for dinner to my place tomorrow. And like, oh yeah, well, let's come for dinner and all of that, and it goes very well. Unfortunately, or should I say fortunately, right now, this is going to be very, very short, so please just try to go with me, right? So fortunately, on the particular day of dinner, Liam, so let's give Liam a sickness. What happened to Liam? Was he strong with cold? Was he down quickly? Was he down with cold? Was he down with fever? All right, fever. Thank you very much. So Liam was down with fever. He was down with fever. And it so happened that when Lily's parents moved in, or came rather to have dinner with Liam's parent, right? And so she kept looking around, where is the weird guy I saw yesterday? Like, oh, a little boy has fever, right? So he's locked inside, or rather he's inside resting and all of that. And this is where it now gets interesting. This is where it gets very, very interesting. That minutes before they left, or rather, because they were very close, or they were close, what's it called, neighbors. So Lily stayed back to help with the dishes after the whole thing happened. And then here was Liam coming out of his room looking all like a drunkard because he was obviously drunk and all of that. And then Lily's in the kitchen, he's going to get food. And right in that moment, so he just enters the kitchen, and then the moment of truth hits them. So I'm trying to paint a picture in your head right now. So this is Liam, this is Lily, and they suddenly, at the same time, turned and faced each other. Just this little culture shock. And then it was Indian film. There will be this little background at the bottom of it, this little background here and there, right? And then this is the point where there's awkward like and there's this little bit of confusion, right? And then eventually Liam goes back to his room. But that was the moment. Thank you very much. Different camera angles and slow motion. That's how it works every time in that movies, right? But at that particular point, Liam rushes back to his room because it feels very awkward. But that was the moment where they stumbled into each other. And that was where the love story began. Now, but ultimately, we can now begin to twist it together. Twist, that Lily sings in the choir. Liam is the keyboardist. So sometimes, because he's already crushing on her, she's singing on key A, he will play on key G, because he's lost, he's mesmerized by her beauty, things like that. We could always twist the narrative. But what I was trying to show you by this story tonight is that every story must have a character, must have a plot, must have a setting, and must have conflict. Is this clear enough, please? Very simple, but very important. Every story must have this. It must have this. It must have this. All right, let's quickly move on because of our time. All right. Next, we have how has this evolved? So I'll just run through this so we could talk tonight, because I have a few things to share with us that will really help you in telling stories. What is the evolution of storytelling? Storytelling surprisingly dates back to 3100 BC. Now, so I'm showing you this to make you understand that this is a tradition that is as old as time itself. Is as old as time itself. You must understand that it is not a Gen Z thing, right? I mean, Gen Z, the current era, we could come in and adjust things and make some adjustments, here and there. But fundamentally, storytelling is as old can be. It has been the only way of passing across information from time to time, right? And we have evolution from written languages to printing press, and now we have the digital age where you see the advent of Instagram, the advent of TikTok, the advent of televisions, of social media platforms and things like that. Quickly, I want us to run now because of our time. We have used Liam to cover our story. All right. So what is the importance of this when it comes to storytelling? Number one, when we talk about telling stories, it's not just about us trying to feel good or have some dopamine or oxytocin, or just have cognitive feel. The surest way or the proven way to transfer values through time is by telling stories. Stories build communities. Stories revitalizes. Stories transfer values. Again, stories build communities. It transfers values and it revitalizes. If there's something you want to teach, if there's something you want to talk about, see how you could make it into a story, right? And then we move on quickly. I want us to reach particular. All right, there's a point I'm trying to explain earlier, that visual storytelling is at least 36,000 years old, right? And the oral part dates back between 50,000 years to 2 million years over time. So you are seeing here that it's not just about the fact that, I can tell stories or it's a new age thing. No, it has always been existing. People always told stories, campfires, tales by moonlight. In cave, you have cavemen, you have people that literally, would draw inside the cave. There has always been a means of telling stories. And it has been the only way to preserve the sanctity of what we do, because stories do not die, which is where I was going to tonight. Stories do not die. Hear me? Stories do not die. Every other thing could be, I mean, the person that told the story could go, right? But stories, original stories, creative stories, stories that shift the hands of time, stories that translate to impact, they do not die. Stories do not die. So how do I tell stories that last? If I do not want this story for this business, for this career path, for this work to die, what do I do? Number one, every story must have a universal theme. Don't tell a story that is unique. I mean, unless it's a context-based thing, right? But let everyone that comes across it be able to a least minimum, relate with the story. Let your stories be universal. Let your story be compelling and relatable. Talk about that breakfast, and eventually, Liam summons the courage to ask Lily out. It was after ninth vigil. They were praying, but he had already bought a ring, that was going to use and everything. He was ready. He was going to ask her out that particular evening. Only for Lily to walk in with a fair guy, and he assumes that would be her brother. Maybe she has a brother that we didn't know about, right? And then he was so psyched about it. He was really praying in the vigil. We thought he was praying for something else, but he was praying for something else entirely, right? And here was Liam kneeling down and asking, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm already in a relation." Exactly. I'm sure more than 90% of people in the world can relate to that kind of story, because you have at some point in your life either had been heartbroken, or had expectations that did not meet up or something like that. The point is relatable characters. Relatable characters. Let people be able to resonate with what you are saying. Have a strong narrative structure. Now, let me say this, because I've read some things and I almost wanted to ask who wrote this. Please have a strong narrative structure. Don't tell us that, all right, so something happened there, and you know how those stories that there's no end. There's some things that you also watch and you're wondering, did nobody look through this film before it was published? How come there's no context to the story, there's no substance to it? Have a strong narrative structure to your story. What is it saying? What is it telling? Who is behind this? How do the scenes link? We've learned about characters, plots, setting, conflict. Have a strong narrative. Now, my story earlier was very, very on the spot, so it may not be so in-depth, right? But the point is just to show you how plots, characters, conflict, and setting interrelate. Make sure your story has emotional connection. I cannot overemphasize this. I said it last year, and I'll say it again. You do not tell stories, what's it called? You don't tell stories to feel. You feel to tell stories. You don't tell stories to feel. You feel to tell stories. The context last year was that you don't write to feel. You feel before you write. Understand who you are writing to. Take, for instance, you want to write about the level of, recently I heard of how there's been attacks in DR Congo. They've been killing Christians and things like that. You can't tell that story without emotions. How do you want to connect to people if you've not felt what you are saying? There must be a great deal of emotional connection in your story. I'm not saying you now begin to cry or you make your story sad, if it calls for it, but I'm saying let people be able to connect with what you're writing, with what you are saying, with what you are doing. And lastly, on this, relevance and adaptability. Your story should be relevant and it should be able to shift even if times are changing quickly. And then we have this way we're going to end tonight. All right. Why are stories forgotten? Number one, they lack universal appeal. They have weak characters. They serve a temporal purpose, and stories that lose their meaning. Then here's where I'm going to conclude tonight. I'm just here to remind you of the importance of this lecture and this teaching tonight with the question, what story will you tell your world? There is the comedy part of this. We could laugh about it all day, but there is the impact part of this. There's so much in the world ongoing. There's so much of hate. There's so much of fear. So much of judgment. There's so much of anger. There's so much of betrayal. What story will you tell your world? What would be that one thing you will be remembered for? So much could be told, so much could be done, so much could be adjusted. But I'm saying, what is the one story your life will tell? What is that particular niche? What is that thing that would be the summation of everything you came here to do? What story will you tell your world? I always say this sometimes, and it's a privilege to say this, right? But over the years, I've had people reach out to me and saying things like, thank you for writing this book. Thank you for writing that book. I have never met them, but my stories have gotten to them. What story will you tell your world? When you stand before, it's not just about, okay, I have this skill, I have that skill, I could do this or do that. The context and the depth of your stories have the power to transform people. It has the power to inspire people. And trust me, do not fall for this trap of people are already doing it. There is a uniqueness that you bring on board that nobody else could bring on board. It's the way I tell my stories. I tell my stories to inspire hope in people. And it's something I'm committed to doing. My question to you tonight, as you've learned the introduction to this, as you've learned the things involved, the process that has to be carried out, as you've learned all of the things around it, the question now boils down to you. Now you know what story is. You've learned the art of it. You've learned that there's a science behind it. You've learned the emotional connection to it. What story will you tell? What is that story that when you stand and speak before people, they will be able to understand at a level that is deeper than words? What story will you tell your world? Will you inspire action? Will you preserve heritage? Will you build bridges? Will you sow seed in families? Will you help the lost? Will you inspire the brokenhearted? Will you lead people to find light? Will you lead people to find hope? Or will you lay aside and let the world be the way it is? All of the reasons why we have the issues in the world today, because we do not have enough storytellers. We have people that complain. Yes, we have people that complain. We have people that can tell you the problem. But how many people do we have doing something about it? What story will you tell your world? I hope you enjoyed tonight's class. We didn't dwell deep into AI because I wanted you to understand first what it means to tell stories. Tomorrow will be very practical. We'll have a lot of sessions tomorrow. We'll move into prompt engineering. We'll move into AI and everything. But tonight, let's begin with this fundamental. Storytelling is beyond what you think it is. It is deeper than that. All right. So lastly, again tonight, you've heard stories, you've heard the structure. What story will you tell your world? What story will you tell? I think we should comment on this. Everyone, please. Let's go to the chat box. The chat box. Think about it. Is there something that you feel committed under God? I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's time to make a recommitment to storytelling. That there's so much in the world that I need. There's a uniqueness that has been deposited in you that only you has the power to unleash out. So chat box, I'm here now waiting for your responses. What story will you tell your world? Are you in politics? Are you in fashion? Are you in music? Are you in tech? Are you in real estate? Are you in photography? What story will you tell your world? I just have about 2 minutes to do this. So please, if you want to just respond in the chat box, so I'm sure we are all following. I'd like you to please respond. Anyone, you want to just say something. Thank you, Jemima. A story of empathy and connection. Thank you, Jemima. Thank you, Jemima. Empathy and connection. Anybody else? Maybe there's about two more people before I move. I hand over to Glory. A story of authenticity, a story to inspire and spread the beauty and magic. Beautiful. Thank you, Amira. Thank you, Amira. Glory says a story of faith, a story of integrity that yields success. There's a lot of school of thought now. People believe that it is you don't have to go to this, you don't have to be hardworking, you don't have to have integrity. There are a lot of people preaching a lot of jargons, bullshit. I'm sorry to use that word right there because storytellers are keeping quiet. Deborah says a story of dependency and love. True love in our world today, friendship, connection, it seems to be dying. What will you do about it? Thank you all so much for tonight. It's been a pleasure. I hope you learned something. Thank you. Thank you so much. Glory, over to you.
Honestly, I don't know what to say at this point because it has been an awesome message and there are different ways. And I know this has spoken to everyone. I hope we have gained in one way or the other. We started with stating our expectations for the bootcamp, and it's like we've started the practical session already, and we can now go on to become more confident in using AI with a purpose in our storytelling. And I believe we have all gained from that. So now, before we wrap up this session, I would like us to I would like to ask if anyone has a question or a quick feedback, a question relating to the message or the bootcamp in general. You can just put your hands up or just type it in the chat box. Do you have questions? Questions? So we all understand what has been said. Okay. I think Emmanuel has a question. And Amira. So Emmanuel, you can go on. Emmanuel.
Good evening, sir, and good
Good
evening,
evening.
everybody.
Good
Um,
evening.
Samuel, thank you so much for tonight's lesson. You mentioned one thing about creating story that lasts, and you have to do. You said something about emotions like that. I want to ask, what if you have the emotions? You know what to write, but you don't have the words that can define that emotion that you're feeling. I don't know if you get the question. So that's my question. What if you have a story to tell? You are like you're having the emotions, but words can't like define what you are feeling inside. So how do you write that kind of story?
And I don't know if he's here with us. I think he's here. Did you get his question, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to quickly do something on my end, and trust me, I I'm trying to find a way to answer the question so that you understand that I understand what you are saying, even beyond your question. Not knowing what to say is actually saying something. Let me come again. Not knowing what to say is actually saying something. How do I mean? There will be sometimes, very true, there'll be sometimes when you have a lot of things in your heart, right? But the words to communicate them, it seems to not be flowing, right? I understand. I have been there a lot of times before, and one of the things that I do is in those times you do not look for perfectness, you look for expression, right? It means the heart itself can speak sometimes for itself, right? But sometimes the words may not come. Sometimes it may just be I think there was a time I wrote in my journal. I think it was just a line I wrote. If you read that line, it won't make sense to you. But it was at a season where I needed to communicate what I felt in my heart. So in those times, express yourself regardless. Write something down. It could be a line. It could be a drawing. It could be a picture, which God will learn tomorrow. You learn how to get images tomorrow with AI, how to design. I hope there'll be time for that tomorrow, right? But trust me, it begins with knowing that it is not about the perfectness. Even you sometimes after you're done, it may feel like gibberish. But the point is that at that exact moment, you were able to communicate that in your heart. It could be just a drawing, it could be a picture, it could be a word. But try as much as possible to ignore perfectness, go for expression. I hope that answered your question, sir. All right.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. To add to that, as a content writer myself, I know I battle with that a lot, that we have to write something that is good. And I think one thing that causes that is comparison, because we have seen others work and we probably don't look behind the scene of what they have done. So the comparison we make with them affects us and prevents us from creating. Thank you for answering that. And I believe Emmanuel has gotten that. So to the next person, Amira, you are raising your hand.
Okay, you mentioned something about feeling emotion before you write. What if you want to write something, like you want to write about something that you've never actually experienced for yourself, but you have this like strong sense of maybe like nostalgia towards it, and you just like feel this, I don't know, this urge to write about it. Is it still possible to write about it?
Sure, sure. In that case, now when it talks about feeling, you don't have to have gone through it to feel. I'm sure there's some of you that probably here, you've never lost someone before, right? But you've had people that maybe lost a mom, lost friends before, right? So you cannot say that, all right, so I can't relate to that. So you can't sympathize with them. Feelings, it's more like putting your audience in consideration. That I'm not writing to a chat box. I'm not writing to AI. AI has no emotions yet. I'm writing to human, I'm writing to people, right? And let me say this quickly to people that probably felt discouraged. One of the greatest or one of the greatest problems that will emerge in our days or in our day as it were is people will be reduced to numbers. How do I mean? Nowadays, if you see a post with 10 likes, you don't take it serious. Yes or yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
Exactly. But what we
Yeah.
don't realize we are doing is that we are reducing people to numbers. 10 likes means 10 people. It means 10 people. Please hear me. It means 10 people. It means 10 people. 2 likes means 2 human beings. I don't care if it is a million likes on that post. I don't care if it is 10,000 likes. Every single like on that matters. I'm used to people that they just feel like nobody's reading my content. It's just 5 people. So I just push anything out there. Is the reason why that thing has not been growing. Now, this is not your question, but I just thought to say this. 10 likes means 10 people. 2 likes means 2 human beings. The greater number doesn't make it more human. 100,000 likes does not make 2 likes less human. Are you getting me, please? I think I have to really stress on this tonight. I have to really emphasize this because people now begin to feel like people don't really follow me on Kenny, and you check your page, you are seeing 10 people, and because 10 looks small, you are seeing numbers, not people. Please, people are not numbers. People are not numbers. That's one person that likes your post is a person. It doesn't make if that same post has 1,000 engagements, that is good, but it doesn't make it more human. So when it comes to writing, people do things without feeling. It's why we have policies today that are literally anti-human. People don't feel for their human beings. We have policies today. We have people that do things, they do not have that sense of feeling. I'm not asking you to feel what they have felt. I'm saying feel that you are writing this to someone that has emotions. Connect to them on that level. Take for instance, if you've read any of my books before, The Train, They Are Free, part 1 and 2. The story was about a young girl that was harassed. I'm not a girl. I cannot, on that level of harassment, I can't relate to that. But I wrote that book out of the same thing you feel. You feel right now, Amira. Out of that drive, there was something in my heart that was nudging. I knew there was people were coming to me during that period from molestation. They were coming to speak out. My heart was so heavy. I had to write something down. The people still reach out to me till now, saying that this your book made me cry. I did not go through her experience, but I knew that she was a human being. So I needed to write it in a way that everyone that reads it could relate to what happened. You are writing to human beings. Treat them like human beings. Consider people's emotions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And I believe Amira understands and has gotten an answer to that. So I think there was a little question in the chat box. Adaise asked if the sessions are recorded. Yes, the teaching was recorded and it will be shared with us. But we should endeavor to attend each of the sessions as they all have great insights for us. So now we are done with today's session. If that is all and there are no questions, I believe there are no questions. So we are done with today's session. And I believe that we